If you compare the evolution of modern R&B to the evolution of jazz, neo-soul is that shift from big band jazz to bebop. Now, if that comparison leaves you a little confused, let me break it down. Once upon a time, jazz was all about the grandeur of big bands. Think flashy horns, impeccably polished tunes, and rhythms so synchronized they could set your watch. But then came bebop, a musical rebellion staged by artists who said, "Hold up, we're doing things our way." Now, fast forward to the late 20th century, we have a new generation of artists with the same frustrations. So they channeled the spirit of bebop, rejecting the mainstream in favor of experimentation and self-expression. And just like bebop shook up jazz, neo-soul shook up R&B. Now, to put things in context, neo-soul entered the 90s music scene when hardcore hip-hop and R&B were the two most popular and crossover forms of contemporary Black expression. Soul music, once the heartbeat of the 60s and 70s, had long faded in popularity with funk, disco, and the rise of hip-hop and R&B. Also, the sound of mainstream R&B at the time had morphed into something almost futuristic to create something nostalgic but entirely new at the same time. A movement that Kadar Massenberg of Motown Recordings christened neo-soul. My name is Elsie and you're watching Off the Record. Now, every genre has a body of work that largely defines its sound, like Thriller did with pop music. For neo-soul, this was D'Angelo's debut album, Brown Sugar, in 1995. Now, D'Angelo's sound wasn't entirely new. It echoed the soulful vibes of the 70s, channeling icons like Marvin Gaye, Smokey Robinson, and Prince. But it was a breath of fresh air, laying a blueprint for the genre in many ways. Opting for live instrumentation over synthesized sounds, it was in stark contrast to the beats dominating R&B at the time. Brown Sugar was a much-needed pivot, pulling the genre out of its trance-like love affair with New Jack Swing, which was the upbeat synthetic sounds popularized by the likes of Bobby Brown and Michael Jackson. And it wasn't just the sound. D'Angelo had a unique vocal style, a blend of speech and song that set him apart from mainstream R&B. This laid-back delivery, with its subdued tempos and distinctive rhythms, was a game changer. The album debuted at number 6 on the Billboard 200 and remained on the chart for 54 weeks. In fact, this album was so successful that the label had to figure out a way to market it to a new audience who weren't really interested in soul music. And so they coined the term neo-soul that became a polarizing catch-all phrase used to describe the genre. Soon after Brown Sugar came other genre-defining debuts. Maxwell's Urban Hang Suite in 1996 was a smooth, sensual, and sophisticated project, drawing on inspiration from Marvin Gaye and Herbie Hancock's jazz fusion stylings. And then there was Erykah Badu's Baduizm, a groundbreaking release that stormed the entire scene. It debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 album chart, quickly going triple platinum and racking up 1 million sales within 2 months. Erykah's unique fusion of jazz, soul, and hip-hop quickly made her the new face of neo-soul, with her winning awards for Best R&B Female Vocal Performance and Album at the 1998 Grammys, despite going up against icons like Mary J. Blige, Babyface, and even Whitney Houston. The success of Baduizm was a game changer for neo-soul. It proved that it wasn't just a niche genre, but a force both critically and commercially, before later albums like The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill and D'Angelo's Voodoo further solidified that sentiment. It was also during this period that the legendary Soulquarians collective emerged. Now, discussing neo-soul without mentioning the Soulquarians is like leaving out a crucial chapter in the story. The Soulquarians were responsible in some shape or form for a number of key genre-defining albums of the early 2000s, including D'Angelo's Voodoo, Common's Electric Circus, The Roots Phrenology, and Erykah Badu's Mama's Gun. Now, as the 2000s dawned and neo-soul gained more momentum, D'Angelo reappeared after a 5-year hiatus, leading a soul revival alongside pioneers, including Questlove, James Poyser of The Roots, and Jay Dilla. The collective initially came together to work on D'Angelo's sophomore album, but over the course of time, as the sessions began at Jimi Hendrix's Electric Lady Studios, they found themselves creating not just one, but multiple bodies of work simultaneously, resulting in some of the most iconic albums of that era. Together, they revolutionized the production process, embracing analog equipment to create a more authentic sound, resulting in music that felt intentionally raw, yet deeply soulful and critically acclaimed. And in the midst of this creative frenzy, neo-soul saw a new wave of talent emerge, with names like Jill Scott, India Arie, Floetry, and Musiq Soulchild all dropping albums that defined the era, capturing hearts and minds alike. But sadly, as with every evolution, success comes at a price. Record labels clamored for hits, radio stations demanded airplay, and very rapidly, the essence of neo-soul began to dim in the face of commercial demands. To make things worse, many well-known artists within the genre felt confined by the neo-soul label and pushed back against it, ultimately leading to its decline and eventual disappearance from the mainstream. So with that being said, I'll leave you with this question. What are some of your favorite albums from the era? Leave a comment and let's have a conversation. So many amazing bodies of work dropped last week, but one that I have not been able to put down is Tems' debut album, Born in the Wild. Let's talk about it. Now, this album comes a little over 6 years after her breakout single, Mr. Rebel, dropped in 2018. And since then, her rise to fame has been incredible. From her feature on Wizkid's Essence in 2020 taking the world by storm, to winning Grammys and working with some of the biggest stars on the planet. During this time, Tems put out 2 EPs that could rival actual full-length albums, but we've all been waiting on her official debut, and it's finally here, with 18 tracks and a runtime of 54 minutes. Now, Born in the Wild, in the simplest way I could put it, is the perfect mix of passion and elegance, with Tems blending R&B, soul, and Afrobeat seamlessly. There's a new air of confidence around this album that wasn't quite there in her previous work. And don't get me wrong, For Broken Ears and If Orange Was a Place are both great EPs, but Tems sounds brand new on this project. You could tell that she's really come into her own. Apart from having one of those voices that just instantly stops you in your tracks, Tems experimented a lot with her vocal delivery on this album in ways we've not really seen her do before. While the familiar Tems we all know and love is still present, she took a lot of risks that I did not expect but paid off big time. On T-Unit, for example, Tems is rapping over 90s style gangster rap production, but she pulls it off with flair. On Get It Right with Asake, she effortlessly floats over the smooth Amapiano production, which is a pocket I really wanted to hear more of after hearing her feature on Tyla's album that came out this year. Her songwriting also got even better. Her lyrics are passionate, witty, and unapologetic in typical Tems fashion. Half the songs are like gospels to follow, while the other half are warning shots at those trying to bring her down. Either way, you're getting the real Tems, and that is what makes this album so addictive. I also love the fact that she avoids a sulky, woe is me mentality when tackling love and heartbreak on this album. Instead, she sings with a sheer confidence, ready for any and everything thrown at her. There's also a lot of reflection on her journey so far and the changes that have come with success. We hear reassuring voice notes from her mother and managers on 2 interludes, reminding her of the big picture. And it all feels like a big sister giving you life advice while recounting her experiences. Now, the beautiful thing is, while this album is introspective, it manages to feel light and freeing at the same time. Tems channels her inner Sade on songs like Ready, which sounds straight out of Love Deluxe, and songs like Love Me Jeje, Forever, and Wickedest, which samples the iconic Premier Gao by Magic System, are all songs I can hear being played at functions all summer. Not only does Tems have writing credits on every single song on the album, but she also contributed significantly to the production, which is so impressive. The features were great and complemented the album, and I really love the fact that she kept them minimal and was the star on her own project. Despite being an 18-track album, there's honestly no weak links on here. Every song stands strong on its own, and I think that just shows how well crafted this album is. This is easily one of my favorite projects to drop all year, and I know that this isn't leaving my rotation anytime soon. June might just be the most stacked month for music we've had all year. Just last week, we saw new releases from Tems, Kaytranada, and Smino to name a few, but there's a lot more coming this week. And as usual, to keep you all updated, here's a list of the albums that I am anticipating the most. No Worries is coming out with a new album this Friday, and I'm particularly excited for this one because all the singles that they've dropped leading up to the album have been amazing. They are one of my favorite artist-producer duos in music, so I know for sure that this project is not gonna disappoint. We're also getting a new Don Toliver project titled Hearthstone Psycho. This will be his 4th studio album, and I'm really looking forward to the sonic direction he takes with this project. Everything he's dropped so far has been really interesting and out of the box. Normani is also finally releasing her much anticipated debut album, Dopamine. I'm really excited for this one, especially because of how long it's taken. From the UK, we're getting new projects from Heady One and Steph London as well. And we're also expecting a new album from Moneybagg Yo and new singles from Raven Lenae, Kali, and Flying a Boss. This week is even more stacked than the last, but I want to know which one is getting your first listen. Let's have a conversation in the comments. Go to watchrevolt.com for more episodes of Off the Record.